Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. Never have to cut you out like right now. You see, I don't have to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they finished change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip.
Welcome to Seahawks Man to Man podcast powered by Blue Wire. Shout out to the new company. My name is Michael-Shawn Dugard. You guys know where to follow me on whatever Elon Musk is calling that app these days. My app name has not changed. It is at Mike Dugard, Mikedugar. It's also right under my face for those watching on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. Seahawks Man to Man is the name of the channel. That is Seahawks Man, the number 2 man. We appreciate that love and support. Even if you only consume us on the audio platforms, just doing that on YouTube just means a lot to us. So thank you. Chris, go ahead, talk to him.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at CKIDD206, and that's CKid206.
Wow, man, I can hear you so much clearer now. I got new AirPods for Christmas. Shout out to the wife. I got the Pros now, so this is cool. Like you ringing in both my ears in a good way. I like that. Okay, you know me. I've only had one AirPod for like the last 5 years.
Shout out T Money for getting you some AirPods, man.
Yeah, the good joints too. I ain't even when I was in the airport. This was to come out here, so Christmas night. I was just trying them out for the first time, and I put them in, and I didn't realize they were like the cancellation type. So everything went, like in the movie where something blows up near them, and then that ringing. It was like that in the airport. I just stood there like, yo, what happened? Is everything okay? And then I recognized I had to adjust the settings though, because I was like, that is spooky, because everything went quiet, and it was so easy to tell because it was the airport. I was like, yo. What? It's just a little weird. But anyway, yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Us starting with my AirPods to let you guys know how bad the game was we're about to talk about.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
it's so bad, Mike.
Great.
Do you want to just go straight to Twitter questions? What could we possibly provide that we don't provide within the questions?
That's a good point. I will say someone asked about it, but I do want to make clear this. Let's make clear the scenarios. First off, because I feel like that is most important. The Seahawks did win. They beat the Bears 6-3 on Thursday Night Football. A primetime win. Feels like we hadn't had one of those in a little bit, perhaps since the Drew Lock Eagles game last year, which was like week 15 or something. So it had been a little bit since they'd won in front of their friends and families. So good for them doing that. So what that set up is, because the Seahawks got to 9-7, now a Rams win doesn't just eliminate them. The Rams host the Cardinals on Saturday night. It's the final of 3 games. We'll talk about some of those earlier games as well. So what the Seahawks need, the simplest path is like this. If you're thinking, Mike, Chris, how do we make the playoffs? Cool. The simplest way is Rams lose to the Cardinals, which automatically sets up a win and you're in Rams-Seahawks rematch week 18 in LA. So if the Cardinals beat the Rams on Saturday night, when the Seahawks go to LA next week, we don't know what day that game is yet, but when they go to LA next week, that's a win and you're in. Because I think in that scenario, the Seahawks would be 10-7 and the Rams would be 9-8. So there you go. You're 1 game up. You're good. So the other scenario, if the Rams beat the Cardinals, the Seahawks can still be in a win and in scenario next week. Again, we don't know when that game is next week. That's important. They can be in a win and in scenario with that rematch if they can win the strength of victory tiebreaker, because all the other tiebreakers would go, they would just be even. Head-to-head, division record, conference record, common games. This would be like the 5th tiebreaker. So with that strength of victory tiebreaker, the way that the Seahawks can avoid losing that, there are 6 teams at play. This is just for week 17. So this is kind of convoluted. I'll try to make this very simple. For week 17, there are 6 games that matter for this hypothetical strength of victory tiebreaker in the event of a Rams win. The 6 games that matter, let me pull up the schedule. The 6 games that matter are Minnesota hosting Green Bay, Buffalo hosting the Jets, San Francisco hosting the Lions. That is Monday night. The Commanders hosting the Falcons. That is the Sunday night game. The Bengals hosting the Broncos. That is the game directly before Rams Cardinals. So that's important. The sequencing there is knowing that that game will already have happened by the time Rams Cardinals play, and then the Browns hosting the Rams. The magic number for the Browns hosting the Dolphins. I'm sorry. The magic number for the Rams is 4. If any of those 4 teams win this week, on top of the Rams beating the Cardinals, Seahawks are toast. Then week 18 doesn't matter. That's it. Rams can clinch the division. I know that's a lot, but just think of the simplest way first. Think of the Cardinals got to win. Everybody go buy some Kyler Murray jerseys and cross your fingers, do whatever voodoo good luck stuff you do. That's the simplest way. But if not, you're basically looking at, for all my gamblers out there, the Seahawks basically got to hit like a 4-leg parlay if the Cardinals end up losing on Saturday night. Okay, that was a lot. That makes sense, Chris?
It makes sense. That's a lot to ask for. Your Santa Christmas list is tough. I know Christmas is over, but for the new year, my goodness, that's what you need just to get in. That's a lot of luck going your way, man. A lot.
Yeah, and you know what, Chris? It's unfortunate that they're there before we get into the game. I talked to some guys in the locker room, like as you guys can imagine, based on watching the game, everybody on defense was like, yeah, that's how we want to play, like that's us. We lit. And the offense was like, damn, we kind of suck, but shout out to the defense. Like we can't play like that, every week. 6 points is not gonna get it done. Like 9 times out of 10, you're gonna take an L if you only score 6 points on offense, and your defense doesn't score either. You usually need touchdowns to win. But I think what they really lamented on both sides of the ball was the fact that they do need that Cardinals game. They do need them to win. They were just like, we shouldn't be in this position. We had control of our own destiny, and I think we talked about this last show. You can always almost, in these last couple of years that they've needed this, Chris, we can almost go back every year and be like, oh, if they had just handled business here, like in the winnable games, they would avoid this situation. And like in 22, what did we say it was? They should have beaten. Oh, they lost to the entire NFC South that year. Like they dropped one to New Orleans. The Germany game was kind of whatever against the Bucks, but then you lose to the Sam Darnold Panthers. And then who was the other bad one? Oh, that Raiders game in overtime. Or no. Who's the other team in the NFC South?
Falcons?
Yes, the Falcons. They lost to the Mariota Falcons at the crib. Thank you. That's what it was.
That was week 2, wasn't it?
It was week 3.
Early in week 3. Yeah, I remember it was early in the season. Yeah.
It was week 3. And those were all, looking at them now, they were all one-possession games. So you dropped 4 one-possession games to the NFC South. That was the worst division in football that year. And then last year, who was the game that they really dropped that kind of screwed them? You remember what that was?
I don't.
It was something stupid.
Was it
the game? Oh, you know what? They should have beat the Rams. They should have beat the Rams. Yeah, they missed a field goal. They had a weird play in Rams territory. And then they also should have beat the Cowboys too. They had a chance. You could just go back to those game situations where you're just not even in this, position where you're playing this sloppy ass Thursday night game where you only score 6 points, and everyone in the locker room's like, yeah, it's great, we won, it's lit, but we shouldn't have to just all get together as a family and watch that Cardinals game Saturday night. And then Chris, this year, I mean, it's so obvious. That Giants loss is sticking out like a sore thumb, bro. That's it. That's the season right there. You couldn't beat the Giants at home, and now you're looking at needing Arizona and the Fighting Kyler Murrays to save your season, man. That is just not. A lot of guys talked about that after the game. Like, we shouldn't be in this position. You know what, Chris? They are 100% right. They should not.
No, they are 100% right. That's it right there. There's nothing else really to add. You had an opportunity early on in the season to show your dominance against a team that kind of was in and out with their quarterback. They lost their best running back. They got a rookie receiver that's out. All the stars aligned for the Seahawks to have an easy W. And they went out there and thought it'd be a cakewalk and realized it wasn't, and got put in a situation where their backs against the wall, and they lost. Daniel Jones came to Seattle, played a damn near his best game of the season
definitely his best game of the season, without question. Yeah.
Then found his way off the team later on in the season, and the Seahawks are thinking, "Wow, we got beat by a dude that ain't even on the roster no more." Like, think of that. How many games in the NFL has that happened to where you lost to a really bad football team and the starting quarterback that beat you is no longer on that same team in the same season? I don't know what type of thing you have to type it in the computer to make that come up and give you that formula, but that's crazy, right? Everything was on that game. Now that the season's coming to where it is, it's, we need to do this. We won the game against the Bears, but man, do we need the Cardinals' help? We also need, if the Cardinals do lose, we got to rely on other teams that are not good to beat good teams, which is not
You
going
know
to
what?
be.
That's what I was gonna do. I was gonna get your opinion on it. Let's go through those games.
Yep.
The one. Let's have you play Nostradamus right here. So let's start with let's go chronological here. I think I said
Okay.
the Broncos are at the Bengals. What do you think? You think they got a
Man,
shot? So
they
they
do
need
have
the
a shot.
Seahawks. The Seahawks need the Broncos to win that.
They do have a shot because I think the Broncos defense is really good, but based on what I saw on HBO Hard Knocks of Mike Tomlin talking about shutting down Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow and how adamant he was about not letting that SOB get open. Hey, he can move the pocket. I just feel that they're on a heater right now, and they need it more than the Denver Broncos do, if that makes any sense. So I would say it's a tight one, but I think the Bengals win that game. I think Joe Burrow
Okay.
and Jamar just do what they do.
All right, so we're down one already there. So
Oh,
let's
sorry,
let's
guys.
just assume the Rams win for the sake of this, because otherwise these games don't matter. So we got the Bengals winning. All right, Commanders are hosting the Falcons on Sunday Night Football. You like
I do
the
like the
Seahawks need the
Commanders.
Falcons to win this. They need Michael Penix to
Yeah,
go crazy.
I need Michael. That would be great for Michael Penix, just because he's a Seattle guy. I don't care about the school he went to, but just being in the area of Seattle, Penix does his thing. That'd be great. But I honestly think Jaden Daniels and that team is better. I think they get the dub. Sorry, 0-2.
All right, that's actually the Sunday night game. I'm out of order here, but it doesn't matter. It's our show. Cleveland, Miami. The Seahawks need Miami to win that one in Cleveland. Miami is still alive, by the way, so they have something to play for. Where Cleveland, with DTR maybe starting at quarterback, does not. Who you got?
That's the game that I think Miami wins. So you get +1 there. Yay!
Okay, we're doing okay. All right, Buffalo is hosting the Jets. Buffalo has something to play for. They still playing for the 2 seed.
Yeah, and I think also Josh Allen wants that MVP, so I expect him to try to be Superman. Not that he does a lot, but I think he just plays a really good and effective football game against the Jets, who are just a bad football team, top to bottom. So, sorry.
All right, so one more win does it for the Rams here. So let's go with the Packers are at the Vikings. Seahawks need the Packers to win that.
That's a good game. I think the Vikings get that one.
All right,
So
there
they're
you
still
go.
alive.
No, that would end it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would end it. They would have their 4. That'd be the Vikings, the Bills, and then the Commanders, and you said Bengals, right?
Yeah.
Bengals. Yeah, that's 4. It doesn't even, the Lions and Niners don't even matter at that point. I think I'm with you. I'm torn on that.
You probably take the Packers, huh?
I'm torn on the Vikings Packers. I think the Vikings are a better team. So yeah, that's the scenario, guys. It's unfortunate. Like, we're gonna get into the game. The game sucks. We don't gotta spend that much time on it.
No.
But it really is. Yeah, man, they just should not be here. And that's just a mark of just a team that's just not quite there, just not quite there. They could get in, they could still get in, but when and the last thing, Chris, before we get into the questions, what's kind of concerning for me in the big picture, I think the defense played well, and that's good. They should have played well. The Bears have problems. They don't have a coach. Fired their OC, and then they fired the head coach, and they're just a mess. It's just not a good team, not a well-run team. They have talent, but that only gets you so far in the NFL. The concerning thing was that usually you want to see a team playing its best ball if it does go into the playoffs. And the defense has kind of been uneven. They gave up a 30 ball to the Packers, 27 to the Vikings. They played well in the back half of both of those games, but started slow. Then the offense is just kind of stuck in neutral. We'll talk a little bit about them in our question segment. So I would like the Seahawks, even if you get in, it would feel like they would be limping in, unless they just play the most complete game of the year against the Rams, of course. But like as it stands currently, it feel like they'd be limping in. And I mean, you just want to get in the dance. Everyone's 0-0 at that point, but just in the grand scheme of what they want to be this season, I mean, it's hard to have much confidence in the long term when they're just playing like this. When you score 6 points, like the Bears are okay on defense, they have good players, but they've lost 9 in a row. It ain't that great. They haven't won in America in like 3 months. Last win was in London. And so I just can't. It's hard to be super confident. I think the defense had a nice bounce back. They played just lights out. They did, and the offense the lights never came on. Just a very weird game for the two sides of the ball. So you would like to see, Chris, if they are going to get in, go in with some momentum, so to speak. Go in feeling good, like we've seen some teams do, in the last few seasons. The Packers went in last year playing really good ball. The Niners went into the playoffs last couple seasons playing really good ball, on just a heater. And I'm talking, and then some of these wild card teams have done that too. They've gotten in, and it's like, ooh, they've won 7 of the last 8 or something like that. Like be one of those teams. With Seahawks, if they do get in, it will take a great win against the Rams to do it, coupled with the Cardinals loss. But yeah, hopefully they get it together, and we'll talk a little bit about how they can do that. But yeah, even if they do get in right now, it's hard to feel confident that they'd play a complete game on both sides of the ball. And you know what the worst part is, Chris? They would almost be better off going to, like, they're going to get a home game if they get in. It would almost be better off if they went to the other team's place.
Because they're good on the road.
They're great. They're a totally different team. On the road. It just makes no sense. But instead, they're going to get a home game. So if they can get in, big if.
Yeah, I agree with you. The inconsistencies of this team would just be too fatal, I think, in the playoffs. You're relying on too many things that you're not good at to all of a sudden just work. Like all the stars would align for your offense to run the football consistently, to not have mental errors from your offensive line, and your receivers have to be on point. Tight ends have to play well. You're just relying on too many things that haven't gone well for you for 17 weeks. And now you're like, you know what? It's the playoffs, Mike. We got this. We're on the road. We're at home. It doesn't matter. And I just, to me, that's a team that doesn't sound like a playoff team to me. And I know you're big on, hey, you want to get in the dance. I'm almost at the point you don't even want to get in the dance. You're setting yourself up to get your ass beat on your home turf. It's almost to the discussion that you've had maybe 2-3 weeks ago about teams out playing where they should be and then getting to the playoffs and getting stomped in the ground. That's what the Seahawks would pretty much do. Like, they have the talented pieces, but we've seen this team through 17 weeks. Why all of a sudden do you think it's just going to change and they're going to be this team that's, wow, okay. I guess the best sample size, and maybe you could find another team, would be the New York Giants. Were they on a heater before they went to the Super Bowl and went on that huge win streak when they finished the season 9-7? I know they didn't have 7 or 18 games at the time, but I'm curious to go back and see how many teams, how they ended the season. Were they on? Did they need other teams to have? Did they need other teams for them to get in? How about that? We'll leave it at that because they finished 9-7. They weren't dominant the whole season. And I look at the Seahawks that are probably going to finish between 9-7, or excuse me, 9-8, 10-7. That's where they could end up for their season. And I just think there's too many mistakes to even think that they can go on a run. But hey, this is just one man's opinion from watching these guys. But I think at this point, you just want to, hopefully you're healthy and you take it from there. And if the Cardinals do win, you play okay, we need this parlay to hit. And if it hits, okay, you buckle them up. But I'm not confident in this team at all.
Yeah, I can't think of a team in recent memory that's limped in like this and then had success. Usually the teams that limp in, I mean, I guess they wouldn't totally be limping in because they would have 1-2 straight on the road to get in. So I don't want to phrase it like that, but you guys get the point. They're not playing complete ball like we've seen some teams play at the end. Usually the teams that kind of back in, that's a better word, that back into the playoffs like this, it's reflected in their first game, if not their second game. The team that they remind me of kind of right now is Houston. Like Houston's locked in, but no one in Houston thinks they're playing a good ball right now. The Texans, that is. Like, no one thinks that. Like, they're on pace right now. Whoever the 5 seed is doing the Patrick Beverly licking their chops meme. Probably thinking, yeah, the 5 seed's looking great. We're going to go to Houston. The weather's going to be within our control, and we could beat these guys. They're wounded, playing bad, So we'll see. We'll see. The good thing is I do think the defense in general is playing well. We'll talk about them. I do think they've done some good stuff schematically, playing together, coverage-wise. So we'll talk about them. But yeah, I hope everyone's a Cardinals fan. Seattle is morphing into Cardinals fans on Saturday night. So I'll be there. I'll not be there. Hell no. But I'll be on my couch watching like the rest of y'all. Maybe we should do a watch party or something. That actually might be kind of fun. Can we watch that live? Can we stream that? Oh no, NFL would sue us. We gotta figure something out. We'll think about it. Anyway, let's get to the questions.
Let's jump in on these Twitter questions, Mike. And as you guessed it, well, actually, you didn't guess it. We kind of talked about it off wax, but a lot of people are looking at Ryan Grubb. He is enemy number 1. And my goodness, when you put up 6 points on prime time television, that's not the greatest thing for you. So this is from Ren Kai on Blue Sky. Oh, that kind of rhymed. Ren Kai on Blue Sky. Shout out to me. If Grubb is out, who do you see as candidates? And who do you think would be the best fit to break the Seahawks offensive coordinator curse?
Yeah, that's a good question. We'll probably have a lot more time to discuss that. But the more I've thought about it, man, Chris, I go with what man. Bring back Brian Schottenheimer and bring him back. I don't think he calls plays in Dallas. I'm pretty sure Mike McCarthy does. So
yes, you're correct.
Yeah, he does. But Brian is the OC. So I think you can get a situation where he can bounce. I don't think they can block that move, because teams can just be like, they can be player haters, which I don't like. If a dude wants to leave, let him leave. But anyway, I think teams can be like, yo, you can't. We're gonna block that move if it's something lateral. I'm pretty sure the Giants might have blocked Mike Kafka from coming to the Seahawks, I believe, this last cycle or something like that. So anyway, he's an option as well, Kafka. But that would be my pick. He's experienced. He's an OC. I don't know if he would take it, but maybe the ability to call plays again will be entertaining. The roster is pretty enticing if you were looking for that sort of thing. Dallas roster is kind of just whatever by comparison, even when Dak gets healthy. So, but the reason why is I do think you need experience. I don't think you need to just try someone out for the first time as an OC. I think you need to get someone who's done it before if you're going to move on from Grubb. There's no indication that they will. But that would be my pick, be Brian. And I think the other thing that I like about potentially bringing in Brian is that he can follow directions for sure. Like when Pete sat him down in week 2 in 2018 was like, yo, I hired you to run the ball. They then proceeded to go have the best rushing offense in the league. And he split because of the philosophical differences with Pete at the end of the 2020 season. But I do think that was a little bit more tied to Russell and what was going on with him and his mind and how they thought that was the best way to win. And also Shotty, people have asked us a few times, like, man, when's the last time he had a decent O-line? Like the last time they had a really good O-line was like 2013. But the last time they had a decent one was 2018. And that was a Shotty season as well. Even the 2019 one was like, okay. So I do. And in 2020, that was just weird. They just decided to just be garbage for like the last month. It's so strange. But yeah, he would probably be the choice that off the top of my head. I got to really dive in, make some phone calls, watch some more film. But that's the one that's been coming back to me. There's some other people that could possibly do it, but I definitely don't want anyone who's a first timer. I think you got to get someone who's experienced, because I think what a lot of these coaches who call the plays for whatever side of the ball they have, they need the luxury of being able to just tell the coordinator on the other side of the ball, hey, bro, you got this. Like obviously they're going to have some say, but Kyle Shanahan, he liked to be able to just tell Saleh or Nick Sorensen or D'Amico Ryans, whoever it is, hey, bro, you got this. Go handle it. Sean McVay does the same thing. Hey, Wade Phillips, Raheem Morris, Brandon Staley, hey, bro, the defense is yours. Here's kind of like my idea of like a philosophy. Go make it happen. And the same thing on the other side of the ball, like a D'Amico Ryans who's calling the plays, or Robert Saleh, I think was calling the plays for the Jets. Like they tell the offensive dude, "Hey man, it's you over there. Go handle that. I'm gonna be over here to help, but that's your side of the ball. Go knock it out, so I can focus on my side of the ball and then run the rest of the team." It's hard for Mike to. I'm speaking for Mike here, but I think it's hard for Mike to do that when Grubb is still learning on the fly so much himself, and they're learning each other. They don't know each other. So if they are going to move on, that would be my vote. Bring in somebody experienced who has some familiarity with getting some of these guys the ball. I don't know how many people would still be here left if they hired him, but still, I just trust him to do it. He's a good mind, and he can build an offense either way. One that needs to be run heavy, pass heavy, whatever it is.
40 rods to the hog on Blue Sky. How much known freedom or tales do we have of Geno changing the play at the line of scrimmage? And also, how much blame can we ascribe to Geno changing the play versus Grubb being too pass heavy?
I don't know how to quantify the first one, and the second one I don't know how to quantify either. However, I mean it does happen. I can't say it happens often. I don't want to say that because that would be speaking out of turn. They do a good job of making sure we don't know when they're checking in and out of runs, right? Because think about the disadvantage that puts them in by telling us, and then we tell y'all, and the other teams see it, and then what I'm saying? It's just, of course, they're not going to tell us. I do know that it happens, and sometimes I should say this: Geno has a lot of autonomy at the line of scrimmage. He's always had a lot of autonomy at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes there are situations where it's like, all right, we got a couple plays called, and we go with everyone based on a look, based on maybe the front, based on maybe what the coverage is doing, safety rotation, where the nickel is, whatever. So it's not just always, all right, Geno, you just change. He's just seeing something change in the play. Sometimes it's designed to be an either or situation. Mike McDonald kind of talked about how it was like that against the Vikings. So it's hard for me to say Geno's changing him half the time, or he's changing him a third of the time, or he's changing him 3/4 of the time. That I just don't have that information available. Shoot, Geno probably would only have that number off the top of his head. I think a lot of teams get to the line and when they have veteran quarterbacks. That's why you hear, particularly in primetime games, you hear them going, kill, 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 or whatever. A lot of teams go to the line with multiple plays. I don't think that this is maybe to answer the second part of that question. I don't think that you can attribute the run pass splits to Geno changing stuff. He's not like, remember Aaron Rodgers had that problem, I feel like, with Mike McCarthy, and kind of had that problem a little bit, I feel like, with the Jets, because Aaron Rodgers is like, yo, I need that autonomy. This is my offense. I do this. I think he even butted heads with Matt LaFleur and when he got hired in Green Bay off of that, initially as well. So I don't think Geno has that level where it's like he's damn near the OC. I still think Geno runs what's called. I just think what's called more often than not is a pass. So if you're wondering who to blame, which is, I guess, the root of that question, Mike, Chris, why are you running the ball so much? The answer is Ryan Grubb. That is the answer. Geno has some autonomy, but at the end of the day, he's going to do what the OC says do.
Dave Sayers, is Grubb a dead man walking after Thursday night's performance against the Bears?
That's a good question. I think that I've been thinking about this quite a bit, actually, the last couple of weeks, because Mike McDonald, as you guys have been able to tell, is very much a process over results guy. Like, is the idea good? For instance, I thought there were two examples that probably frustrated fans, but from like a Grubb perspective, they made sense to me. Three, actually. One of them was the first third down. I think it was a 3rd and 3 in the red zone on the goal line, actually, from the 9-yard line. They got in the short yardage situation, and it looks like Grubb's an idiot because they throw, but it looks like that because Grubb, Geno throws into double coverage trying to hit Tyler. I thought the process there was fine. I thought that honestly that might have been a go for it situation. Like if you're going to throw, I might have gone for it, on 3rd and 3, and maybe he thought about that on 4th and 3. Maybe he thought about that, seeing his QB almost throw a pick and backed out of it. But I thought the process on that was fine. I thought he could have made a better decision there. Another one, they had some other 3rd and shorts later in the game, and they threw. Cool. Grubb in the 4th quarter was like, all right, we got the look we wanted. I think it was like 3rd and 2 when they ran it. Well, and then Zach got stuffed. So it makes Grubb look like an idiot, but I thought the idea, they got the look they wanted, like a light box. I think there was only 6 guys in the box or something like that. They got the look they wanted, did what we would have wanted them to do earlier in the game, run it. He just didn't execute. I haven't watched the play back to know who blew their blocks, but it just didn't work, And even the swing pass that they kind of do the little escort screen I think it was their final third down, check down to Zach. I like the thought there too. I thought the Bears rallied and did some good tackling in space there. But I like the process there, getting it out of Geno's hands. He had been sacked a few times. So, I mean, it looked like some of those instances there look like, damn, man, this dude Grubb is an idiot. But, I think those were some instances where Mike, I'm sure, will look at the process. Like, okay, that was actually a good call based on the look we got, the front, the coverage, where the nickel is, all this stuff that they're looking for. So I don't know if it's dead man walking, because those are the type of things Mike's taking into consideration. He's not telling Farrell Brown to fumble the ball, but maybe Mike's like, well, why are we running the tight end screen to Farrell Brown? I don't know. I don't know if he thinks that. I think that. I'm sure Chris thinks that. Well, Chris likes screens. So
hey, you know what? I'll say this before you continue. It catches the defense off guard. When you are asking questions, why are they doing this, and it's successful, you get a little like, okay, that's cool. But when it goes for negative yards or it's a turnover or a fumble, now you question it, which is also fair. But Farrell, you just got to hold on to the football, my G. It was a successful play. You gained, I think, 7 yards and you fumbled. So it caught the defense off guard. You hang on to the football. You get paid too. So, yeah, I didn't mind it, but I understand why Mike would say, why are you running screens to Farrell Brown? There are other weapons.
There's like a bazillion other weapons. Like, and then for him, he's only touched the ball a few times. So I just didn't like that play. So is Grubb a dead man walking? I'm not sure. I do think that sometimes the result, I think Mike's going to have a better and clearer look at the results when he really evaluates the entire season, particularly if they miss the playoffs. I think if you miss the playoffs and the offense comes out flat again in that Rams game, then I feel like he might even be pressured by ownership or the front office or whatever to make a move, that wouldn't surprise me at all. They'd be like, yo, Mike, you hired your guy. He wasn't the guy. We went 8-9 or 9-8 or whatever, missed the playoffs again. So we got to make some changes. Heads need to roll. So I don't think it's dead man walking quite yet. Because if they put up a 30 ball and go make the playoffs, I do think sometimes the results, that's why I open with Mike being process over results. But I say that to say also the results do matter. The results are what get people hired and fired in this league. So I think that Grubb is kind of coaching for his job, in my opinion. There's no reporting behind this, but in my opinion, I think he's coaching for it next week, because so much can change. He's only coaching for it if that game matters. I should put it that way. Who knows what will happen if they're already eliminated? They might just rest people. I'm not sure. But if that game matters next week and the offense is the reason they lose, or the offense just doesn't look good, yeah, I think Mike will be compelled to make a change, because the whole body of work isn't very good. It won't even just be this last month. For the season, they are a below average offense. And based on what they have in front of them, based on what they have on the roster, that is just inexcusable.
This next one comes from Frank Buckner. Do you believe the Seahawks are a couple of pieces away from being a great team?
Yeah, but with the caveat that there are a couple like really great pieces, just because they have a bunch of, because it feels like, and I hate us that we were right about this. On defense, they have a bunch of guys that are good at stuff, no one's like awful, but they only have a few guys who are like, ooh, he's like that for real, for instance, they're probably just going to have one Pro Bowler, probably just be Leonard. He's probably the only deserving player of that. And that's no knock to the other guys, but that just shows that everybody just hadn't had a okay season. Some guys are having good years, but you guys get what I'm saying here. I feel like, yeah, if there were a couple of like elite pieces away, I think they need another Pro Bowler. I think they need at least one guy playing at an all-pro level. And Leonard could be doing that. So there's a lot of D tackles playing really well right now, unfortunately for him. But I think they need at least one guy playing at an all-pro level. And if they got that and another Pro Bowler, so maybe not just even a new guy playing at all-pro level. Let's just say Ernest plays at a Pro Bowl level or all-pro level next year. They add someone who is of a Pro Bowl caliber, whether that's a rookie or someone in free agency, which they've done. They got Julian Love, made the Pro Bowl, if they were to add, so you add a Pro Bowler and someone else takes their game to the next level, then I think you are just one more like good piece away. Then I think you're one more player who is as good as Kobe. Let's put it like I think that would do it. Like Ernest, let's say for example, Ernest is all pro next year. Everyone else plays, and they add one more Pro Bowl level guy, and then they add one more player via the draft or free agency who's as good as Kobe. I think then it'll be fine. And that applies to the offense too. Let's say Ernest is the all pro, and they add the all pro guy, or excuse me, they add the Pro Bowl guy, and it's a lineman, or let's say Charles is the all pro guy. They add someone who's just as good as Kobe at center or something like that. You know what I mean? So I do think they're a piece or two away, but I think it's like got to be like an elite piece. They need one more guy who's like a Pro Bowl caliber dude.
I think Spoon's getting pretty close.
Yeah, but I'm saying I just think they need one more. Because Rick's made the Pro Bowl, Spoon's made the Pro Bowl, Leo's made the Pro Bowl, Julian's made the Pro Bowl. Like they have some guys, DK's made the Pro Bowl. Anybody else on offense? I don't think anybody else on offense has. So they have guys who have. I just think they need one more of those guys. So that's where the additional piece needs to be, like someone new, someone who's not currently on the roster, come in and be a Pro Bowl caliber guy. And then on top of that, I think you still need someone who's currently on the roster to elevate to an all-pro level, whether that's Ernest, Cross, Spoon elevating to the all-pro, somebody. I think you need somebody to do it, preferably somebody on defense. That would be what I would prefer, but it doesn't matter that much. If it's a lineman, that's cool too. Geno made the Pro Bowl. I knew I was missing somebody.
This next one is from Awkward Kong. What's a comparable offense in the league you think McDonald would want next season?
Oh, this is a good question. I think a really good offense for what similar to what, based on what the Seahawks have in terms of talent, I think is what the Cardinals were before they kind of fell off the planet. Like going into the bye week, they're really good. And what I mean, but the design of the Cardinals offense, I don't remember if we talked about this with Doug or Teo much, but the way the Cardinals offense was designed, like before it kind of just fell off a cliff, no pun intended, with their former coach. They were like a very vertical offense. Like they were stretching the defense vertically. At least they were trying to by design with either Dortch or Trey McBride, who was killing it, Marvin Harrison Jr. But they were still like a power run team. They weren't like one of these basketball on grass type of soft teams. So they like, and I think that helped the type of runner they had in James Conner. Like James is a really physical dude, which like Ken and Zach are too. Zach more so than Ken. But I think that would be the perfect marriage to be able to still test the defenses vertically, which Seattle does not do much of at all this season. And still, when you need to hit people in the mouth, I think that would be ideal. I know it's crazy to pick the Cardinals offense because of where they are and where they've fallen off. But trust me, like going into week 11 or whatever, there was a reason they were a top 10 offense. And that's because that's what they were able to do. Their O-line wasn't great. Their skill position talent was good. Their quarterback has a cannon, but it could make some mistakes as well. He can move, but didn't like to. Power running backs. I thought they were built not totally similar, but similar enough to answer the question this way. Because I just can't pick like the Vikings offense. Their O-line's so much better. I can't just pick the Packers offense. Their O-line's so much better. Their skill player. They're a horizontal offense. The Packers are. A lot of stuff to Jaden Reed, screens and stuff, yards after catch. Same thing with like the Niners when they're clicking. So I think I think that's the Cardinals pre-fall off were a good example, and maybe the Bengals. But the Bengals are a little too pass heavy for me. But as you guys who have Chase Brown in fantasy know, like they do run it when they need to. They're just not enough for me. So I think the Cardinals is the better like schematic design, with honorary mention to the Bengals.
This next one is from at Ease World. Is the offense broken?
Ooh, broken's too strong. I just think it's a work in progress, and you can't be at this point because broken. I feel like it was broken in 2020. I feel like it was broken because then they just didn't know what was going on. They're like, are we a run team? Are we a pass team? Are we trying to have Russ be the MVP? Is Chris Carson our engine? Like they just didn't know what was broken. There was infighting. It was just a mess. But no, I don't think it's broken. I think it's still a work in progress. And I think that's a reflection of the newness on the staff. It's just hard. It's just hard to really have an identity. I can't even blame it on the O-line at this point because they've had the same lineup for a few weeks now. And it still looks it still looks out of whack. Like it's not completely dysfunctional because Chris, they were moving the ball again today. They had some plays, move the ball, even some play calls. Speaking of process and over results, there's a couple times Geno just missed some throws. I ain't got nothing to do with Grubb either, and Geno's usually pretty accurate. He's legitimately one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the league statistically, and the film backs that up too. So I don't think it's broken, but I think these are somewhat expected growing pains, maybe not to this extent, but there are some growing pains that just come with all this newness. And I think that is what we are seeing. So I wouldn't say it's broken.
Eric Wall, is there any way to justify only scoring 6 points against a 4-11 Chicago Bears team?
Absolutely not. There's no way to justify scoring 6 points against the Legion of Boom. Like there's no way to justify scoring 6 points against the 2000 Ravens. I think they even gave up double digits. You should be able to get double digits on pretty much everybody. So no, that's an inexcusable performance today. Like, however you're feeling about the offense, whether you want Grubb fired, with the exception of like just wanting to outright release Geno, it's probably a real emotion. You're upset about Grubb. You're upset about scoring 6 points. You're upset about third downs. You're upset about when you feel like Grubb goes away from the run game, which I do think he did a few times. I'm going to cut him some slack there. I feel like when it was really clicking, I feel like he just runs it so they can eventually get to all the cool pass stuff he wants to get to. Like sometimes it's cool if you just have a drive where you just run it 9 times, bro, especially if it's working. I understand being mad at Grubb about that, Again, I don't know how much that is Geno, but I would guess some of that, or most of that is Ryan Grubb. So, yeah, there's no excuse. This was hell no. How many points the Bears allow per game? Yeah, Chris, coming into this game, the Bears were allowing, so this is through week 16, they were allowing 22.8 points per game. All right, and what do we got at points per drive? They were at 2.09. So they were an average defense, right? They were an average defense. So they got 2.09 points per drive, right? So the Seahawks, if you want to, we don't get into points per drive too much, but you guys can do the math there. They had the ball 9 times and scored 6 drives. They had the ball 9 times and scored 6 points. That is not 2 points per drive. That is worse than that. So they were definitely a very bad. You could score on them, but that way you could score more than 6. I guarantee you that. Everybody else has. So the Seahawks should have scored more than 6 points on them. That is not. That's completely unacceptable at this point in the season when you're trying to see if you want to be like one of the best offenses. I got so many quotes going back to early in the season, like, yeah, when we don't beat ourselves, we could score on anyone. We could be the best offense if we don't, get the penalties, blah, blah. And they did get those too, but also they just didn't execute. And 6 points is just yucky.
From Abraham Newelt, was it the game plan to not throw the ball down the field, or is Geno too injured to sling it?
Geno's never going to be too injured to sling that thing. Because you can see when Geno's injured. I don't know if they talked about it on the broadcast, but when he ran for that first down and it looked like he had more to go and then just slid after he got the first down, that's how you know. Because Geno would have tried to score. Like, think of the Geno that scored that touchdown run against the Broncos, where he made a safety miss in space and then went and scored on like a 30-yarder. And then look at Geno today. Yeah, he's got a bad wheel. I didn't go to the press conference with him today, but I could just see it. I'm not dumb. It looked like I don't know how many of you guys, how old all our listeners are. I don't know if the last time you tried to run somewhere, you tried to sprint, when you haven't in a while, and you could just feel like I don't got it. That was Geno. So no, that's never going to be the game plan because of his injury. It's also just never going to be the game plan because of the guys they have. Every week they're trying to get the ball downfield. Some teams are just better at the discipline with it. And actually, I was talking to the Bears did a good job of that, by the way. It's also something I don't know how much they talked about on the broadcast, but the Bears did a really good job staying on top of stuff. There was only a few opportunities to really take those type of shots, and they couldn't do it cleanly. Some of that has to do with protection and things like that. But the other part is the Bears, and I noticed this when they had Eberflus calling the plays on defense, or at least designing the defense. They were very disciplined. A game that really stood out to me, I think, was they played the Vikings in Chicago, like midway through the season, and like Justin Jefferson had like 2 catches or something like that through regulation. And then the only reason I think the Vikings won it because they busted a coverage. The Bears did. I think on Jefferson in overtime or something. But I bring up that game to say they did a good job keeping a lid on things. It took some really incredible Jordan Addison catches in that game for them to win. So the Bears, when they're locked in, they can, prevent some explosives. I thought they were even pretty decent against the Lions last week, which is why the Lions had to pull out a play where they fake fall on the ground and take a deep shot. That's because the Bears they do have some players who can do that stuff. They only really have, I think, one obvious weak point, which is what's Simone Biles' husband dude name?
Safety. I know you're talking about his name though.
Yeah, I should know his name. Oh, Jonathan Owens. Named Jonathan Owens. Yeah. Like he's like the guy, like if you can throw it over his head, you good. And that's what happened last week when Jameson Williams ran just right by dude for like an 80-yard touchdown. But unless stuff like that is happening, they do have their way to scheme, keeping a lid on stuff. And I think that's also why the Seahawks ran it so well, because they were playing deep. And then when those safeties did come up and when those linebackers did come up, they were trying to take those play action shots. I think Tyler got one. I think DK got one. So you can kind of see what Grubb was thinking. But still, you got to take more shots, man. You got to make them respect it. And you got guys who can run by folks too, not a ton of people. You got Bobo out there. Yeah. Got Jackson out there. But you got DK still. And, I do think you got to be a little bit more aggressive. I don't think it was because of the injuries. I think they were kind of take what the defense was giving them. But this was another game, Chris, I feel like we had this problem in the Packers game where they were a little bit too comfortable letting the defense dictate where the ball went. You can't do that. At some point, you got to dictate the terms back to them, and they did not do that.
This next one is from Chris Calvert. Was it really good defense or was it really bad offense? And then flip it. Were the Seahawks up against a really good defense or was the offense just pretty bad?
Yeah, I think what makes this game ugly is the fact that I don't think either defense was playing like super lights out. And I feel like we've seen that before. For instance, I think that 6-6 tie in 2016 between the Cardinals and Rams, the Cardinals and Seahawks, I think it was Sunday Night Football. A bunch of missed field goals in overtime. I think that was really good defense on both sides, like Herculean efforts by the two defenses to make sure the other team didn't score more than 6 points. This, I just felt like the defenses were the offenses were just out of whack, getting in their own way sometimes. The quarterback's missing throws. The Bears had some drops early in the game. I think Rome dropped one on third down. I think there was another one that went through, I think, Keenan Allen's hands at one point. So I think both defenses played well, but I don't think this was like a case of both defenses putting together like the best film in the world for the Week 16 slate. Like I think even the Ravens defense, like that was great defense what they did to the Texans on Christmas. Like CJ missed some throws in that game, but that was also just like, yo, he's seeing ghosts. Remember that Monday night game where Sam Darnold was like, I'm seeing ghosts? That was CJ on Christmas. Today, I feel like the offenses just were out of whack. The offenses looked like they were on a short week. The defenses looked like they had like 8 days to prepare. I thought you could really see that in some of Geno's throws early, and I thought you could see it in Caleb Williams' pocket presence the whole night. Like Caleb looked like he just had no interest in reading the defense. He dropping back like, oh, damn, here they come. Balls out. Here they come. Rolling right. He's rolling right every time, pretty much. I'm surprised his right tackle didn't get more holding calls. How often Caleb was just a break in the pocket. So I think that both defenses played well, of course. I thought Seattle's scheme in its obvious passing situations got a lot better once they realized that all the Bears had was screens on third and long. They figured that out very fast. And they were like, oh, okay. Let's get them with some sim pressures. Chenna's sack was a great sim pressure. They ended up rushing like 3 dudes. And Chenna still got a clean shot at him. I think Jenkins' sack was also, I think that might have just been a real pressure, like a pressure. Mike went cover 0 on the final drive. I thought as the game went on, they were making Caleb have to do some magical stuff back there. And he just ran out of magic. So, but I think on the flip side, the Bears did some good stuff, but the Seahawks were just not functioning well. And that's probably for the Seahawks offense, the most discouraging part. You're like, dog, they didn't even ball out like that. Not a bunch of turnovers, not a ton of sacks, not a ton of pressure. Just y'all didn't make no plays. It was very, Very weird game for the Seahawks offense in that regard. So yeah, I think it was a lot more bad offense than good defense, than elite defense. I think both defenses played well. But I think in particular, Caleb was playing like that was his first game. He looked awful.
This is from Josh Dixon. How much of a mandate do you think Mike gave Grubb to run the damn football?
I don't know if it was just a mandate as much as it's think about it this way. When you guys watch a game, when Chris and I watch a game, we're all seeing the same thing. Run the ball more. So I'm gonna give Grubb the benefit of the doubt that he is not just watching Alice in Wonderland when he pops on the film. He's actually watching the film and is coming to the same conclusions that we all are. They should run the ball more. The broadcasters have been saying it in real time. I don't know what they're saying today, but like Mark Sanchez, the last couple Seahawks game he's called is basically be like, hey, yeah, run it. Oh, damn, they're throwing it again. That sucks. Okay, here comes a run. Oh, damn, another throw. Like he's Mark Sanchez would be so disappointed in Ryan Grubb. So I say that to say I'm sure Ryan Grubb is watching the same tape. Unless when Grubb pops on the tape and he sees Pirates of the Caribbean on the screen, unless he's doing that, I'm sure that he is coming to the same conclusions as the rest of us, which is we need to run the ball more. We're getting advantageous run looks. Let's go run it at them. That will be my guess. Mike McDonald doesn't just text me the game plans every morning of every game. I wish he did. Mike, if you're listening, go ahead. I'll shoot you my number. But until he does that, I'm just speculating. But for now, I'm going to assume that Grubb's just not a dummy and that he saw what we see. Run the ball more. It's not that hard. Also, get Tyler involved. That didn't make no sense either. Why Tyler not getting the ball? Tyler didn't forget how to run routes or catch. Still got some of the best hands on the team. So, yeah, I think Grubb, this was more so. I mean, I'm sure Mike encouraged that as well during the week, but I'm also going to assume until I learn otherwise that Grubb is watching the same stuff of us and he's not watching Free Willy instead of watching Seahawks tape.
This is from Chris Hamilton. Is Tyler Lockett going to be on the Seahawks next season?
Chris, this hurts. I rock with Locke. I think he's still playing well. I do not think the Seahawks will bring him back. I just think that they have successfully found a way to see what life is like without him while he's still on the roster. And I think the most damning thing is it's crazy because Locke was actually playing well in the first half of the season, getting targets and everything. And he just stopped getting them. Let me look at Tyler Lockett's catch rate for the season. Because I feel like he's not dropping a bunch of passes, and I feel like he's not just getting locked up by corners, I mean, you watching the film too. Like, am I tripping? I feel like Locke's still
he's just not a primary target anymore. He's like third on the when Geno drops back, he's third in the checklist of who he's throwing to. It's JSN, DK, and then maybe Lockett if Ken Walker is not available because they're trying to get him his touches. So he has fallen down the totem pole.
Yeah, I feel like he had one target against Green Bay, 2 targets against Minnesota. He only had the 1 target against the Cardinals in Arizona, and that was the deep ball that he didn't bring in. 3 targets against the Jets, 3 targets against the Cardinals in that first game. I mean, he's catching the ball when he gets it. Looks like there's some good yards after catch. Had some yak today too. Yeah, but I just think that I don't think he will. I think this is probably going to be a situation where John Snyder says, "Thank you, Leia. Thank you for your service. We're going to move on." Now, ideally, I would selfish wish is that he could stay just on a modified contract. But John hasn't shown a lot of willingness to do that with his guys. Like usually he's just like, all right, go, see ya. Not even a negotiation with Sherm, Bobby, KJ, who else?
Jordan.
Jordan Brooks. I think the Jordan one is a little different because like he's not in like the legacy category. Like I think like Sherm was like in the like okay.
Oh, legacy.
Legacy, yeah, him, even Earl. They negotiate with Earl by the end. Yeah, Bobby, they negotiate with him either time. Cut him twice. Sherm, no negotiation. KJ, they just left him just to work out in the summer for months, waiting for a call. Until the Raiders called, I think. So I unfortunately think that Tyler's probably going to fall in that boat where they say, "Hey, man, You know John's little line, yeah, our door's always open for our guys. No, it's not. John be leaving that door closed. So unless somebody gets hurt or something. So yeah, I don't think so. I think they've seen what like a Jackson DK 1-2 punch looks like with some other guys filling in, and will probably feel like living with that. And I think they're gonna realize for their books they need other people to. They need to find some linemen. For real, that's really, really what the offensive lineman. To be clear, but yeah, I wish he was. I would because I think if you give him the ball, he's gonna make plays. You know, I think that's the case for a lot of dudes on this team. I wish it wasn't screens. They're running screens to Tyler today. It's like, come on, man. You know it's bad when Chris don't even agree with the screen.
Yeah, I'm when they threw that to him, I'm like, really? That's all right. He got 3 yards, but I'm thinking I think they just want to give him touches.
No, for sure.
But at the same time, it's like, bro, you throw the ball 10 yards and beyond for Ty Lockett. That's his bag.
Yeah, you know getting Tyler the ball and even Noah a little bit earlier in the game, it kind of felt like being a youth coach and the person's parent done been on you. Yo, why my son ain't getting in the game? You know, why my and you're like, all right, here's some targets. You know, like Tyler's not the person to complain about that, so I know he didn't do that. But that's definitely what it felt like, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think it got to be like that. I think you can naturally get Tyler the ball within the offense. You just got to get some freaking third down conversions.
This next one is from Chris Boyd. How many Seahawks offensive starters will be back at the start of next season?
Who started today? Let's see if we can get this right. You got a pen? Oh, I'm asking you. You're in Seattle.
I have a notepad available. We can run through it like that.
Let's start with the line.
So we have Charles
Cross. Yeah,
you
Charles.
Laken Tomlinson.
Charles, yes. Laken, no.
Center.
Olu, yeah. Did they say be back or be a starter again? Is it just be back?
They said be back next season. How many starters will be back next season?
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can do that. All right. Charles, yes. Laken, no. Olu, yes. Though I don't know if that means starter. Just if the question is just be back, then yes. Sautawa, yes. Abe, yes. So I think all these guys will be back on the team for sure. Whether they're starters is not that's not guaranteed. All right, let's do the running backs. Kenny and Zach for sure. I think all 3 running backs will be back. I think Ken, Zach, and Ken. There's no reason to just like cut any of them. I don't think. I know Ken's on IR, but who else we got? Okay, now we need the receivers. Tyler, no. Jax, yes. DK, yes. And then
Just
Noah, yes.
Yep.
Noah, yes. Yeah, that's it. And just really start one tight end. And then and then Geno.
All right, down to the defense.
Oh, they want defense too? Ooh, damn.
Actually, you know what? Now I think about it, it is just how many offensive starters will be back to start next season. So with that being said, looks like Mike, the only one you're not thinking will be back is Laken
and Tyler.
And Tyler. Okay.
Yeah, you know. But that doesn't mean that everybody else will still be starting. I think everyone will be on the team. I feel like that question is kind of rooted in whether they keep DK. And Chris, I don't know did we get a question about DK?
We did not, thank goodness.
Okay. Well, no, I'm sorry. Can we just do this real quick?
Yeah.
Real quick. I see like no value in getting rid of DK. I just don't, you know. I just really, really, really don't. I just think that he's not as much trouble as like people perceive him to be. And I really think it is just perception. There's not like any leaks from any national reports. There's no like anonymously sourced stories. There's nothing that says DK is just like malcontent, you know? And I feel like because when those guys are a thing, it shows up unless it's the Steelers. The Steelers hide that stuff really well. Then that dude leaves the Steelers and everybody realizes, oh, they hated that guy. Mike Tomlin kept it under wraps. But for the most part, when there's a receiver who is like of that, like get him out of here ilk, classic receiver diva guy, it's known. And that's not the case with DK. Like he's not in there like not being accountable. He's not in there cussing teammates out, begging for the ball. Like even when he cussed out Grubb, it was not like I need the ball because I'm DK. It was more like bro, you keep having us run curl routes. We're better than that. Like that. And he's right. It's not like he's being selfish. He wanted everybody to run past the sticks, not just him. So on top of just what he brings schematically, I think it's very obvious. But I just think that personality wise, he's a fit too. And I know people don't like when he gets the post play stuff. For what it's worth, today was the first time he's got a post play unsportsmanlike flag all year. So week 17, like everybody can get one. Shoot, Ken got one. Body slam Lenore. I was like, fine. I feel like you need a couple dudes with some screws loose like that who are just willing to just like crash out on the other team. I feel like that's fine. Now, getting the flag there sucked, but you guys get my point. Sometimes you just need everybody can't be like an offensive player. Sometimes you need a couple like defensive guys on the offense, if that makes sense. I feel like DJ Fluker was like that too, just a dog, just ugh. So yeah, I just don't see the value there. I think other teams are not going to value him the way you guys think. Like, oh, let's trade DK, get a first round pick. You're not going to get that. Someone's going to offer you a late second or something like that, and you can maybe draft someone. You can maybe draft another DK. Chances are you get like a Jalen Polk or something like that. You know what I mean? I just don't feel great about it. So that's my DK rant. I'm sorry. Thank you guys for coming to my TED Talk.
D Pender 26 with more sacks from defense than points on offense. Is it worth playing Lucas at guard, drafting a new right tackle?
I think you can draft a new right tackle regardless of where you play Abe, just because if you don't extend Abe, he'd be going into the last year of his deal going into 2025. And in general, if anybody who's listening to this show for longer than a week or two, Chris and I are proponents of just always taking offensive linemen. Just do it. Ain't never a bad idea. Because no one's going to complain. When you look around the league, you see how often linemen get hurt and how many teams need linemen. Shoot, the Chiefs have slid their left guard over there because they're on like their fourth left tackle this season. And they're protecting Patrick Mahomes in the quest for a three-peat. That's how desperate teams are for competent offensive linemen. So I think no matter where you play Abe, you're okay if you just say, hey, let's draft another right tackle. Because if that dude doesn't work out right there as right tackle right away and Abe's nails, play him at guard. You got to train everybody everywhere, for the most part as is. So, yeah, I think no matter what happens with Abe, you can draft a right tackle. You can draft a left tackle if you want. You can draft a guard, center. I think every position is up for grabs with pretty much every pick because of how dire the situation up front has generally been for the last decade. So yeah, go ahead. Take a tackle if you like.
This next one is from Slim at Ziggy Not Nice. Does Coach Mike Macdonald have the potential to be a top coach in the NFL?
I feel like this is someone, Chris, we get a lot of questions from. So shout out to Ziggy Not
Yes.
Nice. I feel like that question that I recognize the name there. Yeah, I think generally Mike Macdonald has the right stuff. Process over results. We've talked about this before. Like all of his like little mantras and things, they're all the right stuff. 12 is one. The team, the team, the team. Make it right. Go through stuff, not around stuff. Like one of his things is like methods are adaptable, but principles are set in stone. Like he's got a good foundation just as a person and a football coach about what he wants a team to be, what he stands for, how he's going to treat players, how he's going to hold them accountable, just how he's going to handle the media, though I think that will evolve as he, goes on. I just think all of that is pretty sound. The other part, and this is a very big part of the job, is hiring assistants. That was always going to be tough. That is quietly perhaps the second most important part of the job. Maybe third. If we had to rank them, Chris, I'd probably say obviously it's being a leader. Being a leader. That's the number one. You have to be a leader. I would say number two is game management. And then number three, I think, is hiring assistants. It's probably the third most important part of the job. Everything else will come. Because especially whether you're calling the plays or not, because you can always hand those duties off if you need to, if you hired a good assistant. So yeah, I think that's the part that we're still that Mike still has to figure out. I think because the other parts, I think Mike is a leader. I've been around him enough. I think Mike's a good leader. His game management is generally pretty good. Like very rarely, Chris, if we come on here and Like, remember how often we had to talk about like punt and kick, or why Pete did this or threw this challenge flag, or why Pete just burns timeouts for the hell of it. Like, we haven't had to do a lot of that this season, if at all. Maybe a fourth down decision here or there, but generally Mike's game management is fine. He doesn't just throw challenge flags willy-nilly. His timeout usage is pretty decent. When he does make a fourth down call to go for a punt, whatever, he explains it in a way that we generally make sense. So yeah, I think he's got a lot of the right stuff. You just got to nail the assistants, because if you don't, and that's not just Grubb. That's your O-line coach. That's your DB coach. That's your tight ends coach, your linebackers coach, all this stuff. Special teams coordinator. You have to nail all of this stuff really to sustain success in the league. So I think that's the part that's kind of eluded him more than anything. I think Mike's going to be a decent coach in the NFL.
This next one is from Carlo Coleman. Thoughts on this scenario? Extend Geno, trade Riq Woolen, Noah Fant, and K9 for extra draft capital. Take an offensive lineman in the first round and take Milroe in the second. Do a Rodgers Love mentorship type of thing. And if possible, maybe hire Dable as the offensive coordinator and Lou Riddick as GM.
Damn, that was a hell of a scenario. Okay, let's break that down. Let's start with the things that I don't think need much explanation that I am either for or against. I am against the Dable thing. I just don't think – I think he's actually a good schemer, but I do think there's just something to be said for working with people. And Dable seems to just be very bad at that. And I just don't think that works. Like, not even just the players. Like, he just seems to just not have good relationships with his own coaches. And I just don't see that. I don't want that around the team I'm covering, because that's just unpleasant. So I'm out on that. Louis Riddick, that's fine. What else was in there?
Extend Geno.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I really think, as much as I understand the Geno frustration. I get it. There's no point of us hammering that home. I just really think that a lot of these scenarios were like, well, let's go get such and such, are just not viable. Case in point, Jalen Milroe is probably not going to be there in the second round. And if he is, he's not going to be there when the Seahawks are picking in the second. They're going to pick like 45th or something like that, or, so I guess you can move up, but I wouldn't move up for Milroe. I think how many teams need quarterbacks versus how many actual good ones there are is going to push a lot of dudes up the board. And I think we just saw that in 2024 with 6 dudes went in the top 15.
Yep.
I think we're going to start seeing more of that, whether teams are drafting a guy to play right away or they're doing the stash thing. I think that stash situation is going to get moved up. You're not going to see teams being willing to wait until pick 50 to get their stash guy, like the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts. I think you're going to see more of what the Packers did. I think they traded into the first round to get Jordan Love. You see the Falcons took their contingency plan early. I think you're going to see more teams doing that. So, even the Vikings were cool with JJ sitting behind Sam, right? So I think that's going to make it even harder to get a guy like Milroe, who probably needs to sit. But shoot, a bunch of teams need a guy who can sit. Everybody can. Let's look at this real fast, Chris. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But let's look at some teams that may be picking that don't need a guy like right this second, but could easily want a guy to sit. The Niners, the Saints, the Cardinals, the Cowboys. I guess they just paid Dak. Let's see. Yep, the Seahawks, the Jets. They could actually need a guy right away. There's a few teams in here. The Steelers. Yeah, so I think it's going to be tough, and that's on top of teams who are bad, like the Titans,
Raiders,
Titans, Raiders, Patriots, Browns, Giants. There's a lot of teams. It's going to be tough, I think, to get a guy like Milroe or even Gabriel from Oregon. Trade K9. That's fine if you want to do that. I don't think you're going to get much, but sure. Who else is in there? Oh, trading Reek. I'm okay with yeah, that's fine if you want to do that. I'm not tripping. The Reek one, I'm against that one. I just think I'm against that one because, as we've seen, when Reek is locked in, it's fine. And Reek's on a rookie deal. He's on a 5th round rookie contract. He's even as frustrating as he has been sometimes when he's not locked in, he is outplaying that contract for sure. Like, he is vastly outplaying. You usually don't even get starting cornerback caliber play from a 5th round pick. He's outplaying that. So from a cost benefit standpoint, when he's playing well, he's their best cover corner. He really is. I'm not kidding. Caleb made a really great throw on like that crosser today. That's tough. And you're in cover 0 like that, and your guy breaks away from your leverage. Like, that's just a tough play. A lot of guys give that up, even if you're all pro. Surtain, Sauce, everybody. So yeah, that's the one I'm not on board with, because I honestly think it's more beneficial to just have him for 4 years on a rookie deal than trading, because of the value he brings above what his contract is. Fant, I'm cool. And then
That was it.
Geno. Yeah, I'm cool with keeping Geno. So yeah, that's a lot. Thanks for that question. That was good. There's a lot in that scenario. But I'm cool with about half of it, and then those others, nah.
This next one is from DB Hawks 19. Danny, is Pete Carroll still not technically fired? If a team like the Bears want him, would the Seahawks have to trade for him? Bears first round pick sounds nice.
Yeah, I think because he's not the coach anymore. Like, he was relieved of the coach duty and just didn't step down. I think I have to double check this. Thanks for this question. I'm gonna look at this later. I didn't have time to, because it's freaking 2 a.m. right now. It's 2:06 in the morning right now in Chicago, so I don't have time to make enough phone calls. But my understanding right now is that a team can just hire Pete. My understanding. I think that just lets the Seahawks off with some money. That's kind of my understanding right now. So no, I don't think you get a Sean Payton situation where I think they had to give up a first round pick to the Saints to go get Sean. Like, the Broncos did to give one to the Saints. So I don't think we're looking at a situation like that. I think if he wants to just go to the Bears, which if he's interested, the Bears should definitely do that. Then I think that he just leaves. I can look that. I'm gonna look that up over the weekend, but that is my understanding right now.
Cordy Simpson. You are John Schneider, and you have one last run at making this team a contender. What are the top 3 risk-reward roster moves that will push this team out of the mid for the next tier?
Yeah, I think the thing that, if John was really like, all right, I just found out I have terminal cancer, I'm about to die, so let me just do whatever I want type of thing. I think it's really swiping the credit card, pushing all money you can into the future to spend as much money as humanly possible on competent offensive linemen. Because right now he's bargain shopping. And to the point about Riq that I mentioned, Riq is outplaying his contract by a lot, by the way. None of his linemen are, with the exception of probably Charles. Charles might be. But even then, I think his deal was like fully guaranteed. But yeah, he's playing above that. Maybe Abe is too. Outside of that, you're not really getting guys who are outperforming their contracts by a lot. I mean, Sao Tower doesn't make nothing, so maybe he is too. But you guys get what I'm trying to say. You need guys who are like really like outplaying it. And you just need consistently competent play week in and week out. And I think unless you can find it in the draft, which I think we all agree that we don't trust John to do that. John's got to do, dying wish type of thing, last meal. Push all the money you can forward. Extend everybody you can. Add all the void years. So extend DK out to 2030. Push all that money out with void years. Swipe the credit card. Extend Geno out to 2030 or whatever. Swipe that credit card. Who else can we extend out that far? Charles. Extend Charles out forever, because Charles is young anyway. Like, that one you might actually need to do until 2030. Extend that one out. Anybody else? I think that's probably it. But push all that money, even any free agents you sign, push all that money, 3-4 void years if you need to. Treat it like COVID. Spend as much as humanly possible on guys, even if guys are just okay. Like, a just okay line would be an upgrade. It really would. I think that's got to be. Everything else, I think you can take care of itself. Safeties, DBs. Honestly, the defense is not like that far off from being really good. That's why it's a top 10 defense right now, as is. I just think that's it. That's the position to address. Everything else, you can do the process you've been doing. Because if you think about it, Chris, his process everywhere else has kind of been okay. Front line, not as much. He still hasn't had a double-digit sack guy since 2018. That's a problem. like pass rush off the edge and then the O-line. 2 positions you don't want to suck at. But I think if we're just talking about what you should really pour the resources into, I really, really, really think it is the O-line. And if you want a second position, I don't think there's anything worth like really swiping the credit card for, unless got my finger up for those just watching and not on just listening, not on YouTube. Got my finger up. Unless with the finger wag, unless one of 3 players is available via trade. Chris, can you guess which 3 players I'm about to name?
What position? Offensive line?
D-line.
D-line? Huh. Aiden Hutchinson, probably. TJ Watt. And, man, another good D lineman. One of the Bosa brothers.
All
probably,
right.
Nick Bosa.
0 for 3, but it's okay. If any one of these 3 players is available, Myles Garrett, who had basically told the Browns, hey, I ain't here for no rebuild. Either we're going to be good or get me gone. Max Crosby, who apparently has told the Raiders basically a similar version. Dude, I'm tired of being buns. Are we going to win? If not, get me out of here. And the third player is Michael Parsons. If any of those guys are available, and if you gotta just sell your soul to the evil dude from Ghost Rider with Nick Cage, you gotta sell your soul to him to get one of those guys, and your last dying wish was John Snyder. Then you do that. I think that is what they're missing, really. But I think if money is no object, you can swipe everything on the credit card and push it down the line. You buy an O-line and you go get one of those blue chip pass rushers.
Last one. This is from Brendan. Was this Thursday night game against the Chicago Bears the worst game you've covered?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I've covered every Seahawks game since 2017. So Chris, let's pull up the Seahawks game log going all the way back to 2017. Off the top of your head, can you remember a worse game?
I feel like their Cardinals or one of their division rivals is in there. Like there was just a really ugly game. And Pete Carroll came up there and said, this is how we wanted to play. I think he's done it a lot, but I'm just trying to think. I swear it had to been a rivalry game where they just couldn't score. It's just ugly. But I'm not remembering anything off rip right now without going to the game log.
So as my game log tries to load, because I just tried to feed a lot of games into this cycle. When I look just at the offense, 2 games come to mind as just utterly disgusting. Actually, this is the defense too. So, okay, here's two games stand out that are just awful for both sides of the ball.
I forgot. That loss to the Ravens, that's up there.
Yeah, okay. That's what that's one. That was the one that was bad last year.
Yeah, that might have been because not only did they only score 3, they just got their ass beat. You just saw the difference. Like a really good football team, a team that ain't there yet.
Right.
So that wasn't just like today they won, but they just got beat. Like they won on Thursday Night Football. They got destroyed. They didn't even win the game. There's no more victory. Got your ass beat for 60 minutes.
Yeah, in that Ravens game, that was.
Yeah, so that might be I'm trying to think, but that might be the worst one. That was a year ago.
That's up there. Yeah, that was last year. That's one. And I think number 2 that I'm thinking of that was bad for both sides would be the remember that 2017 game where the Rams came in and just beat them like 42-7 at the crib. KJ was out because he was concussed. Bobby was playing on a bad hammy, which the more I know about like sports science and stuff now, that might have been the worst decision Bobby's made in his career. Bad hammy is not the way to go. He should definitely have sat down. No Cam Chancellor, no Cliff Averill, no Richard Sherman. It might have been one of the worst rosters Pete's ever put on the field. Honestly, that was pretty bad. They lost 42-7. I don't even remember how they scored. It was like their worst home loss. Might still be their worst home loss, actually, by the numbers. So yeah, that was pretty bad for both sides. If I had to pick an offensive performance that was perhaps worse than this one, I would go with that time they had my ass freezing in Green Bay in 2021 and scored 0 points because Russ, with a half broken finger, couldn't take a snap from under center. So they had to go pistol the entire game and scored 0 in 2021. That was awful. That might be the worst offensive performance I think I've seen in my time covering the team.
Damn,
and boy,
that's right.
boy, that was bad, bro. I feel that game because I was cold. It's like that Michael Irvin tweet. We was in the cold. We was cold. like that's how it really felt out there, man. And I just can't forgive Russ for that. It's like, bro, you knew your finger wasn't right. Play Geno. Play Geno. It was so crazy hearing from other guys, coaches and players who were on that team later being like, yeah, we should have just played Geno. And we knew it at the time, but couldn't do nothing about it. It was Russ. I get it. I understand that part from their view, but selfish. That was selfish because I was out there freezing, boy. Okay. And then defense, Chris, I feel like we've had so many to choose from that have been awful. Like the
Colt
last,
McCoy, where do you want to start, man? I mean, that wasn't the worst, but man, you got beat by a backup. Pick any of those, right?
Yeah, any of those. Honestly, any game against the Lions.
Yeah, that's bad defense. They can't stop nobody.
Yeah. I think if we had to really pick one, this was probably the worst. No, probably third worst. I would say that Rams game in 2017 and then the Ravens game last year. Yeah, last year. It's hard. That game was so bad for Pete that they fired Pete and hired the guy from the other team. Like,
you don't see that often. Hey, we're gonna fire you and then get the guy that beat you.
Yeah, man. That was tough, man. That was like that scene in Drumline where Nick Cannon go to the purple team. It's like, yo, y'all got any room for me on your band next year? Like that was tough. John just gave up on Pete right then and there. Sometimes people ask, like, Mike, you see this coming when they fired Pete? And I'm like, nah, not really. But you could tell when John saw it coming. It was that big.
Went to Baltimore.
He said, I'm getting this old dude out of here. For real, that was bad. Yeah, I think we can get it back. That Ravens game probably the worst we've covered. And then I would say the Rams after that, then this.
Yeah, they couldn't even move the ball, Mike. They were like, damn, what do we do here? Should we just take a knee now and just get this over with? That was a bad day. Watching the film on that, I think, was like 40 minutes. That might have been the shortest film session I ever had because they couldn't do nothing. It was like drop back to pass, stack, drop back to pass, incomplete pass, drop back to pass, incomplete, sack. Geno was just looking at a sea of Ravens. Couldn't do nothing.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those times where I felt like they didn't even belong on the field with the other team. And I feel like we've had a few of those with the Niners in recent years, but that was like to the extreme. That was the most extreme I've ever seen it. And it was probably worse than that Rams game in 2017 that I keep referencing because of what the Seahawks put on the field. Like if I was to go look up the game book of the starters, I'd be like, oh, well, that's why they got, smoked, no Bobby or one-legged Bobby, Earl, no Cam, no Sherm, no Mike B, no KJ. Like how many games have they played without KJ and Bobby to that point, right? So, or I guess Bobby played, but you guys get what I'm saying. So yeah, that Ravens game. Yeah, it was so bad it got Pete out of here.
I think they benched Lamar in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
Bro, they was in there throwing the ball to OBJ because it was his birthday. No, for real, it was his birthday, and he hadn't scored all year. So they was like, "Hey, Snoop, come in here and throw a touchdown to OBJ," and then he caught one. I was like, "Okay." They just styling. That dude Keaton Mitchell hadn't carried the ball but more than 2 times all season. Like Barry Sanders in that game. They gave up like 300 yards rushing. Yeah, the more we talk about that game, that was it. That was worse than this. That was just completely because neither side of the ball played well. Let me look at that box score now. Yeah, Keaton Mitchell had 9 carries for 138 yards.
Oh my gosh.
And a touchdown. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was rough.
Rough game indeed. But
yeah, OBJ caught a touchdown from Tyler Huntley in the fourth quarter when they were already up 30-3.
I believe he ran a whip route on our boy Riq there, and
yeah, he did back of the end zone. One of those like kind of a fake right, go left type of thing. So yeah, I think it was his birthday too. OBJ's not Riq's. Yeah, that was tough. That's tough day.
Tough indeed.
Yeah, that's the day John Snyder was like, yeah, we're cooked.
We need him.
Yeah, we need that guy. Yeah, we need him. Let's get him. And he got him. And they're right back to potentially 9-8.
Wow. Crazy how that comes full circle. But it's not over yet.
Yeah.
I know I said that the Seahawks won't make the playoffs.
You said it was over last week.
I did. But you know what they proved? They gotta they gotta win over the Bears on Thursday Night Football, and that allows them to breathe for what is that? 48 more hours until the Rams just end their season painfully. I'll be stunned if the Cardinals win. But hey, it's football. You never know. Teams the Cardinals are playing for something. They want to win just because they want to win. So we shall see what happens on Saturday. By then, we'll have a better understanding of where this Seahawks team lies and what their future holds for their final matchup against the Rams in LA Week 18. But we appreciate all the love and support, all you guys for listening and watching Seahawks Man to Man. Whew. Let's get Mike out of here so we can go to bed. Mike, anything you want to add?
Yeah, as always, I appreciate the love and support. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Follow us on all that. Share, like. It's all Seahawks Man to Man. We keep it simple for you guys. We appreciate all the questions on Blue Sky, on Twitter, on DMs. We really appreciate all that support. You know, like I always say, we Chris and I don't do this to just talk to us. You know, we talk to each other. I could call Chris after the games if I wanted to, but we make this product for you guys. So we appreciate everything that you guys do to support, whether it's just listening, tweeting, liking, sharing, telling your homies about it, whatever. So thank you so much. I met some people who listen to us. Chris, I should have told you that pregame. Ran into some people that was like, yo, I listen to your podcast every day on my way to work. And I'm like, that means the world. So thank you guys. Enjoy your weekend. Try not to let the Seahawks stress you out and root for the Cardinals. Very tough. We'll catch you guys next week. Till then, peace.